All right, so I think that I'm going to talk about compostaje, composting, and how this will help the impact on the on a global scale in terms of environmental and economics as well. First, I'm Gustavo Redín. I'm from Epicentre. We are an organization, an NGO from Ecuador that we work in two big strategies and different topics. The first one is to help the environment in the all the ways that we can, and also the idea is to help the human rights. So we work on human rights and natural rights, and we think that both of those rights are like connected and linked, and you cannot live well without any one of those. In these terms, we have this big project in the city of Quito where we tried to kind of spread the word around composting in terms of a small composting in house, a decentralized kind of composting. The idea of this is because when you have these problems, like one of the biggest problems on the global warming scale and global warming situation is about the bad working of the wastes in big cities, especially in the urban spaces or cities. One of the biggest problems on global warming is the management of waste. Is and if we think and if we see that waste, most of the waste, specifically 60% of them are organic waste, we can see that one of the biggest problems is the organics. And usually in the cities, we don't see this one as a big problem, especially because we try to focus on other materials, especially because these other materials could give us some incomes. This is the recycling system and non-organic wasted. Non-organic wasted that is only for 40% of the problem, but we have plastics on them, and plastics is something that never disappear. And we can see easily. We mostly focus our main situation and our main work on on this kind of waste. But at the end of the day, we don't see that the organic waste is the one who's actually being is being producing more, and with bad treatments or not composting or just throwing away or put it under the ground. This one, when they decompose in a bad way, they produce a lot of gases that would make the effects of the global warming and efecto invernadero yeah, greenhouse gases. This one will hit the world a lot. These gases is produced by the organic waste because they don't have the correct treatment, and they are in contact with other wastes, and they get contaminated with other wastes. So these produce all these gases, and these gases are the ones who are working against or are working in favor of global warming more than even the gases that produces the cars. So one of the solutions that actually it's the easy solution is composting. Is the solution that actually nature give it to us every day. Like for example, in the forest or in the jungle, nature do composting all the time in a simple way. For example, imagine a tree, that grow in the middle of the forest. This tree give us a fruit. This fruit got eaten by a bird or something. Just a little bit. They don't finish the entire fruit. This fruit got raw and then folded down to the floor. In the floor, after that, the tree followed the leaves as well that covered the fruit, and the fruit will become earth again. That gives the nutrients of the fruit, give it back to the earth, and this will give it back to the tree. So then we will have a cycle there, and that's how life is been working in the world and is been working in the forest for a long time. We people are disconnected with this natural cycle when we decided to live in cities or in an urban situation. So we start to see life, and we start to see the production of food and waste as a linear situation. We buy some food from the supermarket, then we get this food to our house, then we eat it, and these ones start to getting bad, and then we throw it away, and then we forget. So this is a line, a way of thinking, and a line situation that we don't get ourselves to think how the world actually and nature actually works in a circle kind of situation. So once we waste everything and we throw it away, this goes to the disposal system of a city, and all the problems start working there. If we cut this line and we start and we give back the nutrients and we give back life to the earth, we actually will cut the problem of the waste situation. This means that we could compost our food and then do the same thing that happened in the forest, but doing in a local situation in our house or in our apartment. This way we will stop the production of these wasting gases, and we will stop the production of waste from the cities, and we will make better the life in the cities. So we do the same thing as the forests do all the time. We put our waste in a place, we put it with some leaves, with some brown situations, and then this will make the composting system that reduce on top 98% of the production of gases of global warming gases, and this will cut significantly the production of waste and gases to the environment. So, with this in mind, we always say that the solution it's the composting, but the decentralized way of composting. Because one of the things that we have to take in mind is like the prices and like the cost that and the work that represent to compost the organic waste. It's directly proportional with the amount of waste that we have in one place. If we, for example, if we have the waste of entire city that we have to work, this will give us a lot of different problems that's going to make it harder the process to compost this waste. For example, if we have like a ton of organic waste in one place, if this produce a lot of pressure in the middle, making that the earth cannot come to the middle, and this we will have the problem that the microorganism that works in the process of composting didn't have the oxygen that they need to live, so they wouldn't grow up, and this will make that the process of composting will be harder and longer. So then we will have to hire different machines and different works to make the process that we could move the organic waste in order to bring the air inside the organics. As well, if we have a lot of organics in one place doing the compost, we will have like lixiviados, this water that smells bad, and actually it's really contaminated if we have in a big proportion with a lot of this contaminate the source, the underground source of water. So if you can see, when we have a lot of compost like compact in one place, the problem actually is bigger and will be harder to work with them, and will be harder to and expensive to actually transform the organic waste into something, in some material that we could use. If we break the system, and like if we do the composting in one house, or and centralize, if everybody actually do their compost of their organic waste in their own house, the process is actually really easy, because we didn't have all these problems that I just explained to you. And the process, like for example, if you have the organics and of the ones that you produce in your house, the you don't have to do too much work to make the oxygen to get inside, because it's not too much, so it's not compact, it's not a lot of pressure, so those this problem you didn't have. So in the worst thing that you have to do is just with a small pail, just move the organics, and that would be it. And you didn't have to hire a lot of machines, or hire somebody else to do this process. So then you rest the prices. Also the water, like the lixiviados that you get from the organics, in a small scale, it's just a little that you can actually use these lixiviados to fertilize other plants, so you can use this water, and because it's not that much, you didn't have this big problem. Also, then we have to count on the at the price that you are saving to the city, or you are saving to the waste company, waste management company, that is the transportation that you're not doing when you compost your organics and your own home and your own place. This process, you eventually going to end the process of transports and transform the organics in a different place. So how you can see, when you do this decentralized composting, all the work's going to be a lot easier, and it's going to be a lot cheaper, and the impact that you have to the world is a lot bigger, because then you're not producing all these gases that's actually giving the global warming situation. So with this, we always said that the best way of how you could help with the world is by composting your own food, and then with that you're gonna have like a waste of the composting is earth. Is really rich on nutrients, earth, that is gonna give you the chance that you can feed your other plants with this, with your organic waste. So actually you're not having waste, you're having a source that's going to help you to have to make more sustainable your life. And another one of the problems that give you the composting is that actually the inside of your compost is going to start to grow up plants, and usually these plants are food that you have at your that you ate, because you throw the seeds of your food in this compost, so you start to growing plants that are the food that you eat. So then you take these plants and put it in a different way, and then you have all this cycle again. You have your food that you're producing by the seeds that is in your compost that was your waste, and then you have your food, the waste of your food, you put it again in a compost system, you get earth to give it to your plants, and then to your plants will give you a food again. So then you come back to the original process that is a cycle of nature and a cycle of life, and you stop the problem, and you will be a big help to environment. So yeah, so that's pretty much what I have to say to you. I don't know if anybody has any question of anything.
So if you have any questions, you can raise your hand and then you can speak them, or you can add them in the chat. Oh, we have a question.
Hi, I have a question. I used to live in Quito until like July, and now I live outside. I live in Aduntaki near to Ibarra, and now I have a place like a little garden, so I can use compost. But in Quito, I used to live in an apartment, so we like if we did this compost thing, we couldn't use it because we didn't have where to use it. As in our sorry, in our house, we didn't have where to put this compost. So what we can do is, in this case, like if you live in an apartment in a big city that and you don't have plants or a garden to use this compost, what we can do in that case?
Great, thank you for the question. Actually, there's never too much compost, and you could always use it. I always say, if you don't have plants in your house, or you don't have anywhere where to put the compost, just do patria, or like be a good citizen and give that compost to the tree that is in front of your house. That it's actually pretty hungry of nutrients. So you could use that compost to throw it just in the park, or in the tree that is in front of your house, or in the or in a plant that is on your neighbor. You know, like the compost, once you have already compost, is not going to be a problem. You put it in another plant, you're actually gonna do some help to these ones, and it's an easy way to be a better citizen. So yeah, in terms, if you have an extra compost that you don't know what to do, you could exchange it, or you could just throw it away in the park. That actually you're gonna do a big impact and a good thing to the park.
Maybe I'll ask
So
a question. Oh, sorry.
you have a question? Go
Yeah.
ahead.
So in terms of compost, how would you, if you lived in an apartment, make the compost? Because obviously you
Yeah,
can't just throw your apple cores in the park.
yeah, that was going to tell you. There's a lot of different ways how you can do compost in the apartment. Um, we as a foundation Epicenter, we develop these compost boxes that are really small, that you can see it on our website if you want it. That actually represent like recreate the process of composting in a small place. But the fact that we just develop these compost boxes doesn't mean that it's like really hard. Like the only thing that you have to do, for example, you could do it on boxes, or you can do it on different places where you could just put the organics. The secret is to do the mix. The mix is actually 50% of organics and 50% of dry material as a ring. I don't know how to say in English. Sorry, is this dust of wood that you put it on the compost, and this will make the process start. And then one thing that you have to keep in mind is that you need to divide the process of composting in 3 different stages. The first stage is where you put the organics with this wood dust. Then the second one is where this gets really hot and they transform. And then in the third one, it's where you get the compost mature. So you could you do this process on your house in a different boxes, where you could do it actually in an apartment. Also, if you could see if anybody wanted, I will add later the link to our website. There's like the ways of in our website, and also in our social media, you can find the different ways of how you could do compost in your apartments. And also there's our small boxes that actually work pretty well. So with this, the things that what I want to say is like, it's really easy actually to do composting. The thing is like, we are not connected anymore with this process. You know, it's a process that like it works every time, and it works everywhere. It's just that we are not used to actually do it, and we don't learn these on schools or other places. And there's something that we should do it, and that we should work it, because it's not that hard. That the impact that we have in the planet doing this is very big in the fact that we connect every of the problems that has global warming on it.
I think we might have a question in the chat,
Sure.
but it's in Spanish, so
Let me see. Saludos desde Panamá. Le escribo a Rocío Collanes de la Juventud Líderes Carta de la Tierra. I don't think it's a question. It's a comment. It says, hello from Panama. Hi, Panama. I don't know if anybody else has a question.
Hi, hola, ¿cómo están? Saludos de Panamá.
Hola. I just add the website of us in the chat, that is planetaepicentre.org. So there you could find actually more information of how you could do the compost on your spaces.
Gustavo, I have a question as well. How did you start down the path of composting? You know, how did you get started and so passionate about it?
Like my personal experience?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's really funny. I have 2 main situations in my life that actually make me this passion, and actually make that the company, like the organization that I work with, start into this path. The first one was when I was very young, and the first time that I started living by myself. I always have the idea of recycling in my mind, so I always like separate the waste from my house. A parenthesis here, like a dot here, in Ecuador, you're not obligated to separate your waste. So I was like the weird person who separate my waste at home. So I put all the organics in one box, in one plastic box, and then I don't know why I forgot about them and like leave it there for a really long time. And then when I come back, it was already kind of dirty, and like it was very different. Like it wasn't organic waste anymore. So that started my curiosity around this situation. So I started to kind of investigating, but just like a hobby. And then when I started working in Epicentre, we work a lot with communities that are not in city, like communities really apart from the cities. So in this community, it was really amused to me when I see that this person didn't have waste almost a lot on their places, that they use everything and they are like really sustainable. Because and then I start asking them how they do it, and I start to like to see all their process, and the thing that amuse me and make me think that is actually something that we could do everywhere, is that they use their waste to feed their own plants that are going to feed them. So I see that these communities, these indigenous communities, and these communities that live in the in a really far situation, that you normally, when you're a person that comes from the city, normally you're gonna start thinking how they manage their waste and what they do with their waste. Actually, the waste was one of the resources of the city, of the community, and one of the resources that they need to produce more food and produce and sustainable their societies. So with these two kind of ideas in my mind, I start working with them, and I start to develop different ways of how to manage the organic waste using the knowledge of the community, and see that actually we are wasting and we are throwing away resources that could help our life in the cities. And then it comes all these other information that comes around with the organics, that you realize that if you don't use these um, materials that you have at your home, if you don't use these resources that you're wasting, actually you're not just wasting resources, you're not just wasting money in that terms, you're also making a big impact in the planet, because your wastes are not being well treated and they're producing more gases to the planet. So this is how we came up with a solution for the organics.
Awesome. Thank you.
You're welcome. Anybody else?
I have another question. So often people, when you think about being eco-friendly, a lot of people associate it with buying more stuff, if you get what I mean, and that being eco-friendly and sustainable is only for the rich people. So do you think that composting is a way for perhaps people that don't have the money to spend buying wooden toothbrushes, for them to make a positive impact on the environment?
Yes, that's a really good idea and a really good point that you pointed there. To be sustainable, it doesn't mean that you need to buy more. It doesn't mean that you need to buy different stuff, or it doesn't mean that you have to like be a different kind of person who lives just with buying, like how you say, these wooden brush teeth that actually are more expensive than the other ones. It really means to be just more conscious. You know, like there's a lot of process that you could do at home that actually is going to help so much to the environment that like you have no idea, and it's going to be make you cheaper. Like to be a sustainable person doesn't mean to have to be a rich person or have a lot of money. Like everybody could be a person who lives in a really sustainable kind of way. And with this, like I wanted to remind you, like on the question before, how I came up with the idea of the composting. It was because I was seeing how people from a small community that most of everybody, like most of the of persons will say a poor community. I don't say that because they live like actually better than us, but like most of the people who would say that they are poor, but actually they're just using their resources in a different way and in a more intelligent way. So that's, I think, something that we have to come up, and something that we have to replicate in the cities and in the urban situations, is to be more smart with the resources, to be more smart with the way how we work, and to be more smart on the way how we consume. I think one of the biggest problems in terms of global warming, and one of the biggest problems that we have right now, is the excess of consume that we have, the excess of buying that we need, the excess of stuff that we need to buy. You know, like I came back with this pandemic situation. You know, the world right now, it's in a really bad economic situation, just because everybody is buying what they need and not what they are told to buy, or what they think they need. You know, they're buying the essential, and this putting the economy in a way that in a situation that everybody is really concerned. I think right now is the moment that we have to think about it, our development model. You know, the way how we see the world, the way how we think. It's the development system where you have to produce and sell and produce more what the planet needs. And I think we have to change this kind of view to a different one. You know, like the circular way of economies, a circular way of life, a way where you reduce the production, you reduce the economy in terms of make it better the buen vivir, you know, the good life to everybody, to bring happiness to everybody. This doesn't mean that we have to be consumers. That one of the things that I always criticize of the system is that we are not people anymore. We are consumers, and most of the process are thinking about us of how much we consume. Like you can see how rich is a country in terms of PIV, and the PIF, it's just how much a country consume. So this way of thinking we have to change in order to be sustainable and to have a world to our sons and our descendancy and for the rest of the people.
I think we had another question from Marine from the UAE, if you want to read it out, Marine, or I can read it out for. What if we burn the waste to generate electricity?
Sorry?
What if we burn the waste to generate electricity?
Yes, you could use if you burn waste in terms to make electricity, I think it works, but also you again came with the fact that you're burning something that produce gases of and this helps warming. I think if you're thinking in terms of making electricity, there's a different ways how you could do it without burning the system, the waste. But again, it comes the main problem that I'm trying to explain here, that it's not just like the idea is not to give your waste and give your problems to somebody else. The idea is not that like the city has to process your waste. I think that all of us has to process our own waste. Like we all of us has to be responsible for the waste that we produce. We have to be responsible for the things that we do. So that is what actually mean to compost at your home. It's not that you're giving your waste to somebody else, that somebody else would work with that, and somebody else would solve the problem, and somebody else will like try to help the environment in terms of the waste that you produce. I think the problem here and the idea here is that you take care of your own waste. You know, like one of the biggest principles of nature rights that we recognize in Ecuador is that el que contamina paga. The one who makes the contamination is the one who has to pay. So I think that's something that we have to put in our minds, and that's why we at least think that composting is one of the best ways of how to you could help the environment, because actually that's the way that you really are taking care of your own waste, your own production. You're responsible for the things that you produce, and with that in mind, you actually are going to make less waste, because you're going to see how much you're doing, and then you're going to be more conscious. That's something that we think, and it's the most important part here.
Does anybody else have any other questions? Because I have a couple. But actually, I guess it's two questions. I remember when I was younger, when I was a kid, I really wanted to have a compost bin. I thought it was an important thing to do, and I found a spot in my backyard, away from everything, and I put my food scraps in there, and my family's food scraps in there. And my parents wouldn't let me do it. They said, no, it's gross. There's flies. Like, get this out of here. And they forbid it. Was I doing it wrong? And also, like, what could I have done better? It's my first question. Second question is, since we have a lot of young people in the crowd in the session, how if they wanted, not just composting, but anything that they're passionate about, and they want a difference that they think that they can make in their community or in the world, how can they start down that path as well?
All right. The first question, yes, you were doing it wrong. One of the things that we have to know about composting is that if it's smelling bad, you're doing wrong. If it's a lot of mosquitoes, doesn't mean that you're doing wrong, but like nobody will like it. There's a lot of ways how you could do it. In easy terms, to answer your question, I'm gonna tell you first for the smell. That means that it's not enough amount of dry waste on the composting. So you have to add more wood dust or more leaves, like dry leaves, to the compost, and that will make the smell go away, because actually the smell is the gases of the composting, and that means that the composting is not doing the in the right way. In terms with the mosquitoes, you have to put a top in top of the organic bin some earth, in terms that you don't allow the mosquitoes to get inside your organics, so then you're not gonna have the problems of the mosquitoes. Again, if you want to know more about the composting and how to do it, you could search us in our social media, not because I want to do publicity to us, but more it's better explain it, and there's a lot of videos that actually you could I'm teaching people how to do composting, so it would be easier and better for you to understand how to do it in those videos than me here in a card that I don't have the organics to explain it. But actually it's really easy if you do it. Like just you have it's an equilibrium. The composting is an equilibrium between dry and musty or waste. And once you understand this equilibrium, it's really easy to do the compost. So with that, and with the second question of how you do it, right now there's a lot of information about doing stuff. You know, you just have to get into internet. The internet have a lot of ideas and information. I think that the most important thing to do or to say to the young people who is in this webinar right now is just keep in mind first what you want to do, and like where is it's how you want to work in benefit of earth, in benefit, I say, of mother earth, if benefit of the planet, the benefit of the environment. And then from them, there's a lot of things that you could do it every single day, or you could join another organization that doing big things. For example, if you want to start small, one of the biggest thing I always say, uh, aside of composting, that you could how you could start it to being more sustainable person, just don't eat meat once a week. Like there's a lot of studies that says that if you don't eat meat once a week, you're being more green than if you drive a green electronic car. So if you could see, there's a lot of different ways how you could really be more conscious of environment. I think that the idea here is just to be more conscious, to just really realize that we're living in a crisis, in a critical situation, that we're really in, like, the global warming is a thing, the environmental warming is a thing, the extinction rebellion is a thing. You know, there's all these things that is happening right now. For example, right now I'm in a community in Esmeraldas of Ecuador, in a small community, trying to fight against a big corporation who is cutting the forest. So, and it's the last remain of forest, of free forest, that we have in the Choco, and in the Choco of Ecuador. So hey, you can see, like, if you really open your eyes, you're gonna find a lot of places where you could work and where you could do best. You know, for example, don't buy products that has oil, palm oil. You know, the palm oil is what we're fighting here right now, because they're cutting the forest. So again, coming back, I don't like it, but we're consumers. But if, because we are consumers, as everybody wants to see us as consumers, we could be a conscious consumers. We could consume things that doesn't affect the environment. We could consume things that doesn't have plastics, that doesn't have palm oil, that doesn't have petroleum on it. So I think that's the most important thing. First, be conscious, and then start doing things.
Awesome, thank you. I just have one more quick question. I think it's a quick question. Animal products. Can we compost animal products? I read different things online, some saying yes, some saying no. You're the expert. What do you think?
We could do it. I don't like it. The thing is, like, the animal products has a different way of composting. Like this, the essence is the same as the organic waste, but with the animal products, it's more aggressive. So if you want to compost organic products, it's better that you do it separated from the organic products, like from fruits and stuff, because if you put it together, the microorganism that works in one is going to fight against the other one, and it's not to, and it's going to make the compost process more longer. because they're going to fight for the food, both of them. And usually the ones from animal products are more extreme, more aggressive. So usually they're going to appear bigger mosquitoes, or they're going to appear bigger problems. So that's why I don't really like to work with animal products. Also, I'm a vegetarian, so that's why I don't I don't have much animal products. But if you have them, you could do it. It's pretty much the same process, but you have to be more conscious and more careful in order that you don't get um, bad insects. Any insect is bad, but actually we don't like big mosquitoes and that stuff.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Are there any more questions? Either enter them in the chat or put your hand up.
I have a question, if you don't mind. So
Yeah.
you talk a lot about how us as individuals can compost, but obviously there's going to be lots of different organizations that produce food waste, like restaurants and perhaps big food making companies. So do you suggest that they compost? And obviously it'll be at a bigger scale. So would that be a solution?
Obviously, for example, I think that every restaurant has to compose their products as well, or every location. But always there's other solutions. You know, mostly I always talk about individuals and houses, because I think we have to start from them. For example, if you're a conscious person, you know, and like you compose your organics at home, and then you are a restaurant owner, probably you're going to think about how to do the composting from your restaurant. I think that the individuals is the essence of a society. So if an individual is the one who's making the change, probably this individual is going to make the change in every single process of their lives. So yes, I think the individual are the ones that we have to start. But eventually, like obviously, I think restaurants and big corporation has to compost the process, and there's some of restaurants that right now they're doing this compost. They're calling us to help them how to do it. There's some restaurants that actually can do it in their own places, or also then, for example, for a restaurant or companies, I think that it's a good way if we think like more in a bigger scale, like a composting area where we could compost this situation. So I'm agree with you. Like I think that restaurants and every single line in the production process has to compost, and not only compost but also try to actually like make less waste. I think that's the first part. Like it's not, yeah, it's a fun solution, the composting, it's a good solution, the recycling is a good solution of transforming the products, but better is actually why don't we produce less waste. And that's something that I think most of restaurants have to think about it. A lot of restaurants, they just throw away the perfectly good food that could be workouted. For example, in Quito, there's like 2 or 3 organizations that actually works really hard to try to recover this food that restaurants are going to throw away, but are like perfect food for eat. And they recover these and try to make food for for homeless persons or person that doesn't have a food in their homes. So yeah, so I think again comes out with the consciousness, you know, like the conscience of the people who actually just see life as a lineal, and like if you don't like something, you throw it away without thinking if this will work or will help or would be used by somebody else.
Are there any more questions from anybody? No? We could turn this into more of a discussion about compost. So everyone could turn on their cameras and talk about their experiences, if they compost themselves or know anybody that composts.
Well, it seems like we've run out of, oh, Hugh. Feel free to ask your question, Hugh.
All right, okay. So, sorry, I only joined a couple minutes ago. I just wanted to, first of all, say this is an excellent workshop. I really like what I've heard so far anyway. And I just wanted to ask, I don't know if it's been addressed previously, do you think that composting is also the responsibility of local councils and regional government? Like, for example, in my area, the local council provides everyone with compost bins, and we're all required to put food waste in that bin, and you can't put it in the regular bin. So then that all gets composted by the local council instead.
Yeah, I think the compost is responsibility of everybody, and not just compost, but like waste management. I think that the first one who has the responsibility is every individual and every person and every family, because again, how I said before, I don't know if you hear it, one of the biggest principles of the human rights and nature rights. Again, I remind you that in Ecuador we have los derechos de la naturaleza recognized by the Constitution. So in this kind of way of thinking, that one of the biggest principles is that the ones who contaminate is the one who has to pay. And when you say that the one who contaminate is the one who has to pay, it doesn't necessarily means that you have to pay. It means that you have to be responsible for the things that you're doing. So if you produce waste, you have to be responsible of your own waste. And I think it's really easy to just say that the municipality is the one who has responsible. Yes, municipalities and city councils, they are responsible of managing waste and do it in a good way and doing it in a way how that doesn't produce contamination or doesn't affect the environment. But also it's your responsibility to not produce that waste, and it's your responsibility to not make it hard the city problems as waste management. So I think that it starts with you. It starts with everybody. It starts in your house. It starts in your place. That you have to manage your waste. You have to compost your own thing. You have to recycle your own waste. And if you can't do it, like first you have to see your own situation. And if you really can't do it, then you have to give it to the municipality so they do it. It doesn't mean that they don't have to do it, and it's not the responsibility. But I think the responsibility is time for everybody.
Thank you. Yes.
Can I ask my question? So, if I'm
Yes.
not wrong, earlier Mehreen also asked a question regarding the burning organic waste to generate electricity, right? What if
Mm-hmm.
I also think that it is a good idea because it will first of all help reduce the trash in the environment itself, and that it will return it in electricity. Not only that, and you mentioned about the emissions. What if those emissions can be controlled? In a sense, like
Can be what?
catalytic converters or such devices are used. Such emissions can be controlled by catalytic converters or such devices.
Um, I think there's like, again, there's a lot of ways how you could control those gases producing and stuff. But in my experience, and I have a lot of experience because a little bit background, I work a lot with natural rights and community rights. In my experience, most of this technology that is being sold out there, that is a green technology, is not that green or it's not that good. So for example, there's this small community in Ecuador where that they've been sold the idea that they're going to burn their trash, and these gases are going to be controlled, and with this they're going to produce electricity. It was true, they produced electricity, but the gases wasn't controlled, and at the end of the day there was like a lot of leaks in the process that actually contaminated entire neighbor. So I think there's a different ways of how you could produce electricity, a really more safe situation. Again, I'm not an expert on terms of burning trash in terms to produce electricity, but I'm an expert in composting, and in that terms, you could have biodigestores, for example, biodigesters, I think is the name in English, that produce electricity as well, and doesn't necessarily need to be burned. So I'm really I don't have the specific answer for your question, because again, I'm not an expert on that area, but I think there's a different more ways and more efficient ways that you could use that doesn't necessarily means to burn the waste, because if you see in terms of statistics, burning waste produce more gases and more harder gases to work and process than just living there. So I think there's a different solutions that you have out there to do it. And in the second terms, it's really expensive to make a plant of burning organics to produce electricity. So again, I think that's a solution for a city, a big city, but it's not something that we could do it in our houses or we could do it in our homes. And especially in this webinar, I try to focus on solutions that we could do it every day in our houses. So I think we should start it from composting, and then we could grow and try to find different and bigger and harder solutions. But first start small. This is one of the biggest, and I love it. This way of thinking of permaculture is like think global, act small, act local.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Gustavo. I'm not just saying this. I'm going to start a compost bin after the summit is over. I promise you. And is there any way that I can tag on social media? Can I tag you guys with a picture of my compost bin?
Please do it. We love that. We love when people compost, and if you tag us, we're going to be very glad.
Okay, awesome. Well, thank you very much again. You've been a great resource for us, and you've inspired us. So thank you so much. And we hope to have you back sometime. Thank you.
Thank you very much for the space. I will be very glad if you invite me again. Just to close this up again, I want to repeat the last thing that I say. Think global, act local. I think that's the solution. I think the solution for the environment and this global warming is to you be the change. You have to be the one who's going to actually change or save the planet. Don't leave this responsibility to anybody else.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Thank you, Gustavo. Thank you, everyone. I do have to close the room, but we'll see you around. Bye-bye.
Thank you very much. Bye-bye.